Hello, welcome to day 5 of Learn, Code and Create. In the previous days, we've been able to explore quite a number of HTML tags. We specifically focused on the content tags, although we saw some of the document structure tags such as the HTML and the doc types. We also glanced at the header tags, specifically the head and then the title tags. But we focus much more on the content tags, including the text formatting tags, list elements, media elements, and then form elements. So in this lesson today, I would like us to explore the tabular elements and then some much more structure elements that are used everywhere nowadays and that are specific to HTML5. So here we go. Let's start with the first element, which is the table. And I would like to underline something very quickly for you. You might be seeing so far that you might have not learned much, but believe me, everything we've learned so far related to HTML is present in any professional website. They are all in any professional or whatever the size of the website or the web application. These elements are very well used. So very soon we'll also look at some examples on some real website, and you know that you realize that you know now. So I think realizing that you have something that is valuable, that is useful, will also motivate you much more. So let's look at the tabular elements in HTML. We've seen in the last episode how to insert forms, because we know in our normal day, on our daily lives, documents, we usually require to have forms to be filled. So same thing goes with tables. It's almost impossible to live without the tables, and the tabular data always looks like this, and it is a very nice concept to understand. So the first thing I would like you to realize or understand about tables is what we call the rows, and these ones we call the columns. So it is very important. I met people who could not make the difference between the columns and the rows. So these ones, see them as rows. So the rows that are vertical, that is from the top to the bottom, these rows are the columns. And the rows that are from your left and to your right are actually the rows. So it is very important to have that concept in mind to understand how the tables are structured. So this is a row. If you take this row area like this is a row, right? And if I take this whole area like this is a column, another column here, another column here. So wherever a column and then a row meet, they create what we call a cell, and that cell looks like this. So this is a cell, this is another cell, and this is another cell here. So these are few things you need to understand about tables before we move on to the HTML tables. So here we said they are called rows. Rows and columns. So I'll just write col for columns. So how do we build such structure using HTML? So the HTML tag, likewise the UL tags and then the form tags, is composed of some other sub tags we need to learn. So, but obviously, to insert a table, we will make use of the tables tag. So you call the tables tag table, you close, then at the end of everything, you also close the tables tag like this. Good. So whatever happens here, there's going to be a lot of other works. So all these subtags that are under the table, we are going to explore them one by one. But before we continue, so I'm going back to my last course folder, and then I'll create the folder for the day by doing right click, new folder, and then I'll name it day 5. So inside of the day5 folder, I'm going to create a new file by doing right click new text document. Sorry. So, and this text document, I will name this one table.html. Yes. Do you want to change the extension? Yes, I want to change the extension. Then I can open my document using my favorite text editor. So in your case, you can continue to use Sublime, or if you have already moved to a better text editor, you can go ahead. Okay, so I'll try to open my file using my favorite text editor. So I'll do open with, then I'll try to find my Sublime text. So I did reinstall my Sublime text today because it did not allow me to install some packages. So my editor might look different. So alright, so once I have my file open into my text editor, I can enter the basic HTML structure, and this title is going to be the table. So in the body tag, this is where we are going to explore how the tables elements work. So first of all, we'll insert the table tag and see if we perceive anything on the documents. So I'll do table, and that's it. And we can now try to preview our document by double clicking on the name, and we see nothing. So it shows nothing. So this is how tables work in HTML. First of all, you insert what we call a row. It's like once you enter the tables tags like this, you draw a line like this. It might be, you can preview it, you can imagine that line as just one line, but I used to love to make it as two lines like a road. So in order to make that happen, to have this virtual kind of row, we use a tag called tr for table row, tr, and then we close the tr. So tr. So by doing that, it's like virtually we've inserted a road, uh, a horizontal road, right? So we go back to our code and we try to do that and see if we get anything. So we do tr, and if we preview by refreshing our document, still nothing happens. It makes sense because nothing will show up because tables are supposed to show cells. And remember, cells are intersections of rows and columns. As far as there's no intersection, no row, nothing will show, because even if we assume that the table has only one cell, it is still an intersection of one row and then another one column. So having just inserted a row is not enough to help us get a cell. So we still have to insert what we call a cell or a table data. Uh, a table data, yes, a TD. So the table data is basically like the cell, and because the cell is what contains the actual data of the table. So to get a table data, we bring in a TD. So we do TD. Let me get that in a different color and reduce the size. So get a TD. Then we close the TD somewhere like this. So this will give us one row like this, and then one column, and it will give us one cell. So if we do that, so we go inside the TR, we do one table data, and if you go to preview, still nothing shows, but this time we have the table actually showing up. So we can see the content here. So to actually start to see the table, you add an attribute to the table, which is the border attribute. It is a Boolean attribute, so you can leave it simply like this, or you can just say you can enter some value, which is the size, the thickness of the border you want to have. So if we do this time around, we can see the table popping up somewhere in the angle there, and the border is really thick. But if I remove the number, I'm just gonna get a table with normal borders. So here we've created one row with the TR. So this is a virtual row, and then one column or one table data, one cell. So it means whenever you draw a row by using TR, so whenever you draw a row, as long as you continue to insert the TDs and TDs and TDs, you are going to cut that row into pieces. So it's imagine like this. Anytime you insert a TD and you close it, you cut the row like this. Anytime you insert another one, you cut the row like this. Anytime you insert another one, you cut the row like this. So basically that's how you build tables. So if you want us to go through, you can add another one. So let's cut again, TD, and you see it will bring two cells. You can see them. So the reason why you might see it as this is because there's no content in the cells, although we call them table data. We did not put any data inside. So for example, in the first one, we can put the data 1, and the second one we put the data 2. And by refreshing, we should be able to get something cool. So you see, as far as you continue to cut the row, you can always get cells. Now, you might ask yourself, what happens if you have a table that looks like this? So here, this table is going to have two rows. So this is the first row, this is the second row, and two columns. This is the first column, and this is the second column. So the first thing you need to look at is that if you take the first row, it means that row has two columns. So that's the first rule. We already learned how to insert one row by just calling the table row TR and TR. That's how we insert one row. And then we also learned that once we insert a row, as long as we continue to cut that row with TD, table data, we'll get columns. So we can use that rule and then try to build another table with that structure that looks like what we just drew. So I'll create a new table somewhere here. I'll do table and then close the tables tag. I'll give it a border so that it can be visible for us. Then I will insert the first row by using TR. And I know based on the drawing here, we need to have two cells which are the TDs. So we want TD in the first place. We open it and close it. It is an even tag, and we say 1. Then we need another one, which is the second one. So we do 2. So with this, we are guaranteed that we have just inserted this first row and cut it into two pieces by inserting two TDs. So if you want to get the similar thing at the bottom, it looks to me that it is obvious that we just have to copy this same thing here and bring it down. So that includes copying the TR and all the TDs inside that cut it, and then bring it down. So this should be 3 here, and this should be the fourth cell. So by doing that, we should get a nicer table with this same layout. So that's cool. So basically that's the rule you have to use when you are creating tables. Understand the principle of the rows, understand the principle of the columns. Understand that every time you use the TR, you are kind of creating two rails like this. And anytime you insert a TD in between these two TRs, you are kind of cutting these rails and so. So the more TRs you insert, the more rows you get. The more TRs you insert, the more rows you get. And in between, the more you insert the TDs, the more cells you cut. So this is how we get tables inserted. So that's the basic structure. So let's look at some of the attributes the table itself has. So we've seen the border attribute. And right now, if we look at our table, we can see that they are kind of tiny and they don't look really cool. So if we want to fix that, we can set the width of the table to be probably a certain number. So let's say 50% of our screen. If I do that, you see the table will grow to occupy half of my screen size. So, and the border as well, what if I just make it 1? So it takes 1. Let me make it 0 and see what we get. So 0, and add this place too. I can use an attribute called BG color. So this is the first time in this whole course we are seeing something that can allow us to give color. So let me give the color lavender, and you can see. So I can bring back the border at 1, and then I will still see my table. Right, so this is quite cool. So another thing I want you to look at is sometimes we have these special tables which headers as different. So for example, you have a statistical data that contains the ages of the people, right? So ages, and then the consumption, I would say let's say the age of the people, and then the, their parents alive. So parent alive, may God spare you all and all of us. May God spare all of us. So let me cancel this example. So let's assume we want to have the 8 years, and then we want to have the class the person is in, and so we have such table like. So we still go, so for this type of tables we still go for a tr to say the row. But for the heading, for the cells, instead of us to insert td, we are going to insert th. So we do th, and here we do th. So if we go back to our table here, instead of us to use th here, we are going to use tr as usual. Then these ones becomes th, th. So this is th and th. So my bad for mixing them up in your mind. So here we go. And now you can see that the age is bold, the class is bold, the 12 is the normal cell value, and so on. So basically that's how you can insert a table with with row headers. So remember, let me recall everything. We use tr to create a kind of road, and a horizontal road or a row, and then we cut that row into cells by using tds or ths. If we want to have a table header, we use th, and that's how we get the table inserted. So there's also another concept I want you to see, which is the merging of the cells. So we can usually see tables like this. So the tables like this, let's say we have ID for a product ID. Then we have, let's say, price. So the price, and then the partial total here, somewhere here. So let's assume we have our first product, which is with the ID of 1. The price is, let's say, 10. And then the total, maybe the quantity is just 1. So the total becomes 10. So here, we might have many of these products here inserted and so on. But in the end, we want to have the total. So we say total. And then we want the total to be here. So these two cells here, if we look at it, we want to be able to merge these two cells into one. So this can happen in any angle. We might decide to say, okay, we just want to merge these two here, and so on. Or we can just decide to merge all these elements into one. So the merging of the cells, either on the row side, on the row, or on the columns. So this is what we are going to look at. To do that, let's insert another table. So we are going to say table, br hit, and then table. Go to the next one. Let me give it a border of 1 and the width of 50%. Good. Then I will insert my tr. Remember, we insert the tr because we know that we are going to have a heading, which is the ID, product, price, and price total. So we can use the th here, So we say ID. The first th will be the ID. The second one is going to be price. And the third one, let me add the quantity here, QTY. And then this one will be total, which is the subtotal for that particular product. So we've inserted the first row, which is the header. So by using THs instead of TDs, so we get that formatting of it being bold. So we insert the next row, which will now contain the next product. So here we are going to have the first card, which is TD, and the ID is 1. Then we have the next TD, and then we make the price, let's say 10.00. Then the next one is the quantity, another TD, and then that's going to be, let's say 2. And then the total TD, again we cut it into total, that's going to be 20.00. So we have our first product inserted and the subtotal there. So we might have 2 of these kind of things. So in this case, we can just copy and paste. The ID here will change into 2. The price here, let's say we make it 5. And then the quantity, we just make it to 1 and we get just 5 here. And now the last row where we are going to have total, this one is going to be total. So if we reload to see what we have so far, so we can see our total show up there. Okay, so great. So we get everything right, which shows very well. So here, the only thing we want to do is to merge these 3 cells into one. So how do we do that? So the first thing we do is to go to this one, this cell, and then we add. So we need to understand what we are merging. So we have this cell, and this cell. We have what we call rowspan and then colspan. So are we going to span the columns? So let's say if you are merging this one and this guy, the 10 and the 50 cells, I'm merging the rows. If we have to merge this 10 and then these 50 cells, we are actually merging 2 rows. So this is the concept here. It's very important to understand. If I have this is a row, this is a row, and this is another row, and then we cut it. So if I am to do what we call the column merge or colspan, so I'll change the color. If I'm to do colspan, I'm going to take this cell. Let's assume I'm spanning it like this. So for the colspan, we take the columns in a row and we merge them. So these 2 columns in this row, we merge them. We just did the column span. Now, if you want to do row span, we want to take this row and merge it to the next row. So for example, this is going to be a row span of these 2 cells. So that's how it works. It's very important. So the col span actually goes in the direction of the rows, and then the row span goes in the direction of the columns. So they are inversed, right? They are inverse. The row span goes in the collection of the column in the direction of the columns. So if you span 2, you do row span 2, it's going to merge this and this. If you do col span 2, it's going to merge this and this. So that's the idea. So in our case, we want to merge this and this to make them one, an empty space, and leave this guy. So we are going to use column span rather. So we do column span because we want to span these 2 columns and go in the direction of the rows. So col span. So how many columns do we intend to merge on this row? We intend to merge these 2. So that's going to be 2 rows, columns. And then by merging these 2, normally this guy must go. So we cancel this. We are clearing this. So we must remove it manually. And now if you refresh, you should see that the 2 columns have been merged. And here the value, we just have to remove it and keep it empty so that it looks cleared. Now the total here appears here, which is now 15 and 25. So 25. So basically that's how you build tables. So, and that being the first part of this video. The next part, we are going to explore other tags. There are so many things you can actually explore about the tables. Even the TDs and the TRs also can take some attributes to improve, like the alignment. So if you look at this table here, you can see that the prices, the headers are centered, but the content is not. So we can decide to center the content. Let's assume I decide to center this price here. So I can do align, and then I'll enter center. So you see it centers it. So we can do this kind of alignment and more other attributes on the tables, and actually ask you to go and research deeper on the tables. But what is important right now is for you to understand this basic concept and be able to insert basic tables. And that's enough to start. So the next thing we are going to look at are the structured tags in HTML. These ones we are not going to do much because physically they don't have any particular effect. So I mean visually they don't have any particular effect. So, and these are the tags we usually use to help us structure our HTML documents. They are very important because in real life your application will contain from page to page various areas that discuss various topics or subtopics. So it is important that from time to time we kind of section our HTML document, we partition it into small sections and portions. And because of that, HTML5 thought of these basic principles. For example, when you look at any website, you might end up having some kind of, banner or hero like this one, or it might be a banner. So you see here we have the hero here too. You might also see these navigations, so we or generally called menus. So it is everywhere. You see footer, so which is the bottom of the website, and maybe some areas that are different. So you can see this area is differs from this area, what we call sections and so on. So HTML thought of different tags that can represent these various elements that have the meaning of the actual meaning of the content you are trying to write there. So that's what we call semantic HTML. So the idea behind semantic HTML is to write the code that represents the exact content you want to, at least close to the exact content you want to do. So that being said, if I will go and create a new file, this time again inside my folder D5, and I will name it, so new file text area, then I will name it structures.html. Yes, so I'll open it again with my sublime text. So sublime text, then I will insert my basic HTML structure, then I will say structure elements. So the reason they are actually called structure elements because they allow us to kind of define an abstract virtual abstract structure of our web pages. So the first one we usually see is the one called main. So you see, in addition to our body tag, we can have another tag called main, which is like the main content or the main area of the website. So you can use it to cover all the other elements. Remember, when we were inserting the forms, we use the div tag to kind of group the elements of a field, including its label and the input element inside. So this kind of concept of grouping something so that you can easily move them together. So that's the idea of having the main tag, which allows us to encompass everything inside it. Then apart from the main tag, we can also have the header tag, and you can see there's a difference between this header tag and the head tag. You should always be careful. This is head, This is part of the HTML document structure, and this is header 2, which allows us to structure content. So this is a content level tag. So it is header, not head. So we have the header tag. So the header tag is actually supposed to contain header tags, headings, like the H1 and H2 and so. But it can also contain anything that represents the top of any portion of your document. So for example, if you are taking this area of here, this could be considered as the header. If I take this whole web page, this whole part, the navigation part here, is part of the header part section of the website. So whenever you want something to top something, so think about the header tag. And then close to the header tag, we can have what we call the H group tag. The H group tag is used to group the headings. So for example, we can have the first heading here, and then that will be, let me pick this, our slogan, and put it here, and then have the paragraph, which is this: develop in demand skills and so. So basically that's the right structure. We have a header, and that header has H group. So it means we could insert another H group here, which would now contain H2 rather than H1 and so. So this is basically what the header could be used for, and you can see the idea. So one of the main reasons why we care about this is to actually give more meaning to our code, and also help search engines to be able to know what exactly our websites or our web pages are trying to convey as messages. So it is very important to have them. Now, as we are looking at the preview of this website, you can see that there's nothing actually that shows that I use the header tag also. The only thing we see here is just the heading H1 and H2. So basically this header tag, the main tag, the H group tag have no visual effect per se. You don't see anything special by using them. So let me reduce one of them. So, but what they have, what they provide is the actual meaning of what each area of your website is all about. So after the heading, we have other things that are called sections. So sections are obviously just like the way we use the division tag. People we use to abuse the div tag. Meanwhile, the div tag does not have any particular meaning. So section now actually distinguishes various areas of our website. So if we look at the Lance Course website again, this whole area of the head here can be considered as the section. This green area here can be considered as the section, and this area here containing the shortcuts can be seen as a section. And to prove to you, if we observe the source code of this page, so we do inspect, and then I will start from the header, and when I click on it, you can see the tag used is actually header. So you see, it is actually used in real life. So these are not basic things you are learning. These are serious things. So you see it is header. Then after that, if you start observing the actual content, let's say starting from here, you can see every single area is a section. Every single area is a section that contains a group of data that is just conveying the same message. So this is how sections can be used to do, and that can be just not only on the complete web page, it can be localized. So what I mean by that is, let's say we take an article like this, and we can have the article to have various sections. So like this area is a section, this one is another section, and so on. So it can be in the larger aspect of your website to the narrowest part of it, so it still works. And the same goes with the header tag and header groups. So for example, for this article, this whole area is the header of the article, so it's still valid. Wow, this header here is the header of the whole page, so it is still something good. And the next thing we need to see, the next tag we need to see is the navigation tag. That the navigation tag is used to group or to represent anywhere there will be clicking. There, think about them whenever you have clicking. So where we'll have something that can help us to navigate from page to page and so on. So like in this case, if you look at this header back again, if you go back to the header, look at it, we unfold it to check inside, you can see it has a navigation tag inside it to contain the navigation. So you can see now the form and so many other sub tags, but they are all inside the navigation because that's where the user will be clicking to navigate throughout the website. So it is very important to know about the navigation. So in general, you use navigation in partnership with either the A tags by saying um, A, href, and so on. Then you enter the link and you close the A. So you might work with a navigation tag like this by knowing that, okay, here we are going to click and do something about it. So apart from this tag, we can also make another tag called the footer. So the footer tag, like the name suggests it, usually represents the bottom line of the document or an article. So whatever the parent tag it is in, this should represent its footer. So that's basically the basic concept around the footer tag. So to illustrate that, if you go back to our document, our web page here, this area is the footer of the site. So if I go back to an article, let's say this one, and we have the article's header here. So we have the article's header here, and then if we go down, we have the article's footer that contains the biography of the author as well. And then below that, we have the footer of the main site. So if we inspect this element, for example, you can see it's the footer element here. So here, I don't know if I actually use the footer. Let's check again. You can see it is a footer element as well. So this all makes sense when you look at the document, the code. You could already feel like, okay, this area of the site will mean this. This area of the code will mean this on the page. So that's the concept. Then another tag I would like us to look at is the articles tag. So you see, it actually means what it is, an article. So in the case of this post here, this whole post is an article. So if we observe it, we could see that. So if we observe it, we could see that it might contain some kind of article tag, and you can see here. So here, this article tag, you can see it is going to contain the whole article, but nonetheless, we have a header tag which represents this area. And then, like we said earlier, we also have the footer area. So where did I put that footer? So probably somewhere here. So we see the footer here, right? So, and beside the footer, you can see there's another tag here called aside. And that aside is this. So some related information. So when you have an information that relates to another one close to it, that becomes a related information, and we use the aside tag to do it. So in an article, we could have the header of the article, which could contain maybe some heading groups or some heading already, like say H1 and article title. And then in the body here, we can now insert the various paragraphs with the text of the article. Then at the bottom, we'll come and say we want to insert the footer, which will contain the author's details, and say, and so. So beside that article, we could just have some aside. So it can be inside the article tag or just outside the article tag or something like this. So that's what it is used for. And that actually is some of this represents some of these common tags you will see as you are building professional websites. So there's nothing big about it. What their name suggests is what they are supposed to do, and they won't have any visual representation until you decide to start them using CSS, which we are going to do from week 2. So from there, you'll be able to explore various possibilities of laying out a website, giving it a look and feel you wish to have, and so on. So I hope you stick around till then, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you get notified when we publish these courses again. So thank you so much for watching this, and see you in the following day.